Hey, everybody. Welcome to YouRulz. Along with the five-star co-star, Aaron Bland, I'm Jason Walker. And Aaron Bland, it is week one of the NFL season. How hype are you to finally get football going again?
Well, last year I kind of semi-opted out like a lot of the players did. So it seems longer than usual. And
Right.
When I watched college football yesterday and saw, full crowds and the fans are back, but felt a lot more like football to me. So I'm very excited. Last year didn't feel as much like football. An empty stadium to me isn't really football. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, not unless it's the XFL or some kind of alternate pro operation there. Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, we got a lot to talk about with week one, but Aaron, drafts are still going on. This is, the last big week of drafts, a lot of draft prep. I know you and I have both done a lot of stuff on the YouRulz site to try to help people get ready. We've done features on, not necessarily your number one. We're not doing a feature on Christian McCaffrey. I think everybody pretty much knows that he is, one of the top players in fantasy football. But we've hit on guys, after the J.K. Dobbins injury, which was heartbreaking to me, Aaron, I wrote about Gus Edwards and felt like, one of the key fallacies in preparing for your draft is just assuming that when somebody gets hurt, the next guy is just going to suddenly become that guy, as if everybody's a product of the system. I like Gus Edwards, but had to mention that, you don't expect him to get everything that maybe a regular RB1 gets. And what are some of the favorite things that you've put on the site so far in terms of helping people get ready for the draft?
Well, first of all, the J.K. Dobbins thing was a perfect example of why you shouldn't have your draft yet. you shouldn't have been drafting yet. You and I have been burned many times over the years. And most people wouldn't know this. Jason and I have been playing fantasy football together. This is our 30th season. We started playing in 92, incredibly 30 years, Jason.
Incredible.
And over the years, we were burned many times by having a draft and the guy blows his knee out, 24 hours later. So I think we're seeing, first of all, we're seeing more and more people waiting, often up until the last day. Who knows how many drafts are going to be going on Wednesday night?
Yeah.
But your piece on Gus Edwards was actually enlightening for me. You had named some stats that I didn't know about. He's a pretty effective runner.
Yeah.
In some ways, maybe even more effective than Dobbins.
Yeah, one of the things that I talked about in the piece was, Dobbins was great, but Football Outsiders also had Gus Edwards as the seventh most effective runner in the defense adjusted over average stat that they have. So I was surprised by that too. I mean, when you dig into things, that's the key part of injury substitutions. Look at the people behind them. So whether you're drafting for a handcuff or something like that, look at the guys. If they step in, would you expect them to get it? That's why I've never really liked handcuffing, Aaron. Handcuff. I mean, that guy behind them, may not be any good. They may just decide to throw more in the equation. I just don't get into handcuffs as much,
And of course, we're in uncharted territory with YouRulz now, in that every player in the draft now has more importance.
Yeah.
So you're used to drafting your starting team, and then the back third of the draft, you're just trying to get through it, filling your bench. Whoop-de-doo, let's get this over with. Suddenly, when you can substitute all year long,
right,
your backup quarterback, just as one example, has enormous importance. It makes every roster spot more important, Jason. So we have to learn to think a little bit differently when we draft. To me, it makes backup players suddenly a lot more important.
Yeah, but also, I always am a proponent of the lottery draft running back, where you take some flyers on guys that may not even play until week 13 or 14, or unless a couple of injuries, just talented rookies and guys that are kind of buried on the bench a little bit, to take that. But with YouRulz, it makes sense to have maybe a more full featured bench, because if the game flow goes against a running back, you have James Robinson to the Jags, and all of a sudden the Jaguars are losing. Well, last year that meant James Robinson wasn't getting anything done. They were going to pitch it around a little bit, maybe different this year. But for that example, maybe you bench James Robinson and take one of the guys on your bench who may not be players. That might have been a guy like Dobbins last year, or Zach Moss of the Bills, or somebody like that you can put in and get stats for when you know James Robinson's done because the Jags were down 3 touchdowns last year, and that was it for him. It does. It changes the game, and it changes the way that you might be able to draft prep. In-game substitutions, automatic auto subs, all part of the YouRulz Premiums package. Definitely try it out. I mean, you've done all the basic drafts before. Do something with a little flair and try a game that's different and puts the headset on you during the Sunday action. I'm super excited for this season to get going. All right. Any last words on that, Aaron, on some of the ways that the in-game changes?
Joel, just to hop on what you were saying, I know everybody's pretty much got their established leagues by now. They've played for years, ESPN, Yahoo, or whatever it is, but start a YouRulz league as a test league, as a fun league. I don't care if it's with 4 people. I don't care if it's a 4-man league.
Right.
Try it, because in my opinion, once you start being able to substitute, you make that first substitution, you're never really going to want to go back to not being able to do that. So I'm going to push this throughout the year, Jason, even after the season started. Week 2, week 3, week 6, start a league then. Start a league. Right. Try it this year. We need to get people in the system trying it this year. If you pay the $9.95 for premium this year, Jason, it's free for next year.
Wow.
So sign up this year and you'll be able to play next year for free.
Take a flyer on it. Absolutely. And one of the other things that are part of the YouRulz package is the ability to get points for pass interference penalties. Man, Aaron, nothing ticks me off than my guy getting open down the field and some schmo just decides to tackle him. And the ball moves and it's good for the team. But it does affect how you draft. If you can count that in a YouRulz league, it bumps up a guy that I swear I didn't realize, but it made sense to me. But Mike Evans, 167 yards of pass interference yards taken away from him and 9 catches. That's 25 extra points. It moved him. I think I did this for our upcoming wide receiver rankings update, which, Aaron and I will be ranking players all year long, going along, as Aaron said. It kind of changes things, start, sit. Well, now you can maybe sit and start, mix and match, do an in-game substitution. But Mike Evans, I think, jumped from like 9 to 6 in fantasy points if he'd just gotten the points he earned for pass interference. And, it doesn't give you a touchdown if he's tackled in the end zone, but consolation that you have it in there. Changes things from a wide receiver perspective, Aaron.
These are next level stats. I mean, who would have thought of that? Let's look at who led the league in pass interference yardage. And of course, the quarterback would get those yards as well.
Oh, good point.
But a lot of these big guys, especially the big, tall receivers, often get mugged, and get those So maybe guys like Kenny Golladay or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with a bad quarterback who normally, like Daniel Jones, who really can't get anywhere near him, may be able to draw some interference penalties.
Well, and PPR, which, if you choose PPR, great. But a guy like CeeDee Lamb has a lot more value because he's going to get more catches near closer line of scrimmage. He's going to be targeted more. He's not as pressure dependent as maybe Amari Cooper, who's going to run some deeper routes there. Maybe that balances out Cooper and Lamb in your draft preparation and consideration as you go along. But super. And so we get, more, like I said, more stuff coming out for draft prep. Aaron and I both have updated quarterback rankings, running back rankings. I moved Edwards up quite a bit. Aaron and I had some disagreements, took some pot shots at me in the running back piece. I wasn't as high as a guy like Jonathan Taylor, although I loved him. I just feel like Frank Reich's going to pull the rug out from under him a little bit more like he did in the first half of the year. But some interesting things. I'm sure we will have more on wide receivers as we update our wide receiver and tight end rankings too. Just a lot of fun.
Well, the draft is all about value, where you draft people, because we had this discussion about when Cam Akers went down, Darrell Henderson was suddenly being reached for fairly early, and I thought it was an overreach. I wasn't real high on him, but then when the Sony Michel trade happened, suddenly he started dropping back and became a much more realistic pick.
Right.
Everyone assumes Michel's going to come in and get 20 carries a game. That's just not going to happen. I don't think he could hold up even if they try to give him 20 carries a game. But like another example of value of Patrick Mahomes. Everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. Everybody wants Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to complain about getting Patrick Mahomes, but if he's going I think the ADP 14th, 13th or 14th in drafts.
Yeah.
And the next quarterback, Josh Allen, is going 29th. I mean, Josh Allen had more points than Mahomes last year. He could very well have more points this year. What's a better value, Mahomes at 14 or Allen at 29? I mean, I take Allen all day, a round or two later. That's just about value. It's not a poke at Mahomes.
Not at all. I mean, and if you one of a proponent, if you're in a 1 QB league, which Mr. Bland and I have both been involved in 2 quarterback leagues for, many years. In fact, our longtime league that Aaron mentioned was a 10-team, 2 QB league, and it really raised the value of quarterbacks overall. But if you're in a 1 QB league, hey, I'm not hating on you. I'm not judging you, man. No judgment here. But you're going to wait, and in that case, you're looking at guys like Justin Herbert, and I would draw a line though, and I've advised a lot of people in their draft strategy this year when they're going for quarterbacks, if they're in a wait for quarterback, I think there's a significant drop off there, and about to me about the 8th pick, depending on your scoring system, of course, but around that 8th pick, and that you should, the canary in the coal mine is when guys like Dak Prescott goes, or Aaron Rodgers, who's gone up significantly since we wrote our piece on YouRulz about him. And that you make sure you get one of those guys. I love Tom Brady, but he sits just outside that with Ryan Tannehill, guys like that, Aaron. I think you have to really draw a line. And even if that means taking a quarterback around earlier than you're used to doing in your weight leagues, you don't want to get stuck with a dud quarterback all year. And we've seen that, you and I have played in leagues where you get stuck with a bad quarterback and you're done. You're below average almost all year. It's a real hill to climb.
You wait and you wait and you wait, and then you realize you waited too long. And this comes to, if you're playing with people, and most leagues probably do, know their tendencies. You should know their tendencies by now. Who do they like? How do they draft?
Right. Always
be looking ahead at their rosters to see who they still need. That way you can see if maybe you can wait to the next round or not. Don't just go in with tunnel vision on a draft. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Let the other owners dictate a little bit about how you draft. Always keep an eye on what the other owners are doing. I think especially a lot of newer players don't really think of that.
Yeah, good point. And, speaking of looking ahead, we can look ahead to week 1 in week 1, Aaron, I know you and I have talked about this over the years. Week 1 is just such a magical week. Not only is football finally here, and you're sitting there, but it's the week where all things are made clear, all of the prognostications, and this coach is going to do this, and this team is going to be better, that offense is going to be on track. And week 1, it's all revealed for everybody to see. And a lot of things happen during and after week 1.
Well, what happens every week 1, first of all, almost certainly some major player gets hurt.
Right.
And suddenly his backup, which nobody had, is everyone goes, oh God, there's the number 1 waiver pick. That always happens, for one. Secondly, teams that you thought were going to be incredible are awful, and vice versa. And throughout the years, the team who loses in the league and gets hammered, has the worst week, has that magical number 1 waiver pick and gets that big guy. So that's why in week 1, you should, I'm not going to say you should hope to lose, but if you do, look at the bright side. It's the loser teams that get those top picks, and they're always the biggest ones, Jason. Somebody steps up, or either that, or somebody comes out of nowhere and has this huge week that no one drafted. And everyone's looking at themselves going, why the heck did this guy not get drafted? Coming out and having that hot week, it's great to start big, but you may miss out on the top free agent.
Well, that's a great point. If you're not playing with free agent auction budget or something, if you're doing a straight waivers, which a lot of us all do, Aaron's absolutely right. Anquan Bolden comes to mind. I remember when Anquan was a rookie, and he was a quarterback at Florida State. He went to the Cardinals, as a wide receiver, and had that huge week 1 out there in the desert. And that's exactly right. I mean, that pops into my head every single time, week 1. And, it's when, offenses are shown to be real timeshares are in play. We talked about Darrell Henderson earlier. How are the Rams really going to do that? Well, if you are drafting Henderson and he's down almost, Aaron mentioned it, started dropping. And I mentioned at the time, and I wrote up the article, it's dated now because he's almost fallen a full round since I wrote that piece on YouRulz. He's going later as people just don't trust it. Now, my opinion was, hey, Sony Michel someone was going to get other carries anyway. Like Aaron said, there's no confusing Darrell Henderson for Earl Campbell or even Adrian Peterson to bring it into the 21st century. But it's that thing where, well, Sony Michel's going to, what if Sony Michel goes week 1, he gets 3 carries and Henderson's getting everything in there? It's one of those things that week 1 just crystallizes there. And there's a lot to like. I looking at the slate for week 1, we'll get in, we'll have, like I said, we'll have kind of rankings later in the week, but I looked at the Arizona game this week, and that they're going to be out there. I think against Kansas City, just lost it all of a sudden there. But just amazing that there's some games this week that are going to have that revelation. What's the one thing you think that will show out this week as we get into the season? Titans and the Cardinals. How did I forget that? Titans, Cardinals. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think you'll see this week out there?
My instinct is we're going to get, I don't know why, it's just instinct. We're going to get a little more offense than we were expecting in week 1. I think we're going to get some fireworks. Maybe the players and coaches are also excited and decide to open up the playbook a little more. But we had a lot of free agency. We had a lot of guys moving around. Of course, the NFL is more focused on offense than they've ever been. When we started playing in '92, the NFL passing touchdown leader had like 21 or 22 touchdown passes and led the NFL. Now we have 40, 48, 50, insane numbers like that. A team like Arizona, you just mentioned, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in their, kind of second season under this system. They're an exciting team to watch. They added AJ Green, which I don't know what he's got left, but it didn't hurt to add AJ Green. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see some. I think we're going to see some fireworks early in the season that as the season goes on, dwindle a little bit as defenses get caught up.
Yeah, great point. That was another thing about week 1. Absolutely, scoring bonanza. If you're playing, if you're playing in the head-to-head leagues, you want to make sure maybe you start the guy at least initially that maybe has the more upside and can get you there. But again, YouRulz will let you substitute in 3 games over 50 points. The Vegas totals this week. It's the Cardinals at the Titans. As I mentioned before, I was excited about that game. Cardinals play at pace. They're not a very efficient offense, but they play at great pace. And if Tennessee can get ahead in that game, now they've got Julio, now they've got AJ Brown, you might see a big week out of Derrick Henry coming through there. The Cardinals will keep playing fast too. You have another 50-point game. You have the Packers and the Saints. Just what do the Saints have? Will Winston will turn the ball over? Is Taysom Hill going to get the goal line working? Are the Packers going to be as efficient, Aaron, as last year? I think so. I think this is the last stand for Aaron Rodgers, and I think everybody in that Packers offense is going to be at a premium. I'm already seeing a lot of prognostication around Devontae Adams this week. What do you think about the Packers here going into week 1?
I think that there's going to be a little step back from next year. Not much, but the fact is, even a 5 or 10% step back is still a huge season. I mean, Aaron Rodgers threw for 48 touchdowns and ran in 3. Aaron Jones had 18, something ridiculous, 18, 19. I don't know what it was. It was up there. He could still end up though with 15, which is a huge year. There's no reason to Devontae Adams, who's just an amazing touchdown scorer. There's no reason to think it would drop off big time. They said the numbers were pinball machine numbers last year. So I don't know if I'd expect 50 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers, but I don't see any reason why. Same coaching staff, same players. I don't see really any reason why there'd be a huge step back.
Yeah. And the final 50-point game, Aaron, is Cleveland at Kansas City. That was another game. I was getting them confused there because I knew that Kansas City was hosting a big game. It's Cleveland coming into town with Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield. And in the Chiefs course, sporting everything, from Mahomes and Tyreek and Kelsey, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think is now going to get more of the load as a running back, pass catching. I think he's one of the guys we had a little bit of a controversy in our article about, because I see that if they do commit to him as they can, and they've invested in their offensive line to be a more effective run unit, I really feel like you could see him be one of those possible guys that are outside the top 10 today, but can land in the top 5. The Chiefs anyway, Aaron, they're going to put up points, and the Browns at the Chiefs make for a pretty good game.
Yeah, I wasn't as high as you on Clyde. I just didn't think he was very good. Not only was injury prone, he wasn't nearly as effective as they were expecting last year. Now that could change. I still don't think he's going to be as effective as they want. I think they're just going to fall back on Mahomes' arm, which there's really nothing wrong with that. Now, in terms of Cleveland, they're one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. If they were smart, they would try to keep Mahomes on the bench this week and give Chubb about 30 carries. I heard someone the other day saying, you're crazy to have Chubb in your top 10 in PPR leagues. He doesn't catch enough balls. I don't know. Well, I get it. Right. He's not the pass catching back there. He will catch a few balls, but I mean, Jason, I can see him scoring 15 times or better. If he stays healthy, we got an extra game this year on top of it. He's the kind of guy, if he stayed healthy, it wouldn't shock me if he has an 18, 19, 20 touchdown season. He's so talented.
Could score against anybody too. It really doesn't matter who the defense is. Even against top defenses, Chubb can break it and take it to the house. I'm a huge Chubb fan, and if our rankings weren't PPR, I'd have had him a lot higher. I think he may be the most talented running back, in the league right now. And that's tough to say considering where he went to school and where I went to school. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Chubb is a great runner. Kareem Hunt also. So another tandem that maybe you can play together. There's been a few of those through the years, Aaron, in there. So if you could have them both and play them in a game like this where Hunt's going to be involved in the passing. You definitely want Chubb to score early in that game. That's for sure. And looking at the projections for this week, obviously Christian McCaffrey's always got the high, but I like Dalvin Cook against the Bengals. I just don't, I don't believe in Cincinnati, and I like Cook going into Cincinnati. The Vikings definitely going to lean on him. I think they'll be able to get ahead. I just don't know if the Bengals can protect Joe Burrow enough to make good on all the talent that they've tried to assemble around him. They didn't spend any of that offensive line. I like Cook this week as even though everybody else was always going to have him in the top 5 for the week. I like him this week as one of the top scorers in there. Going against Cincinnati. The Vikings have a 25.5 point team total. It's pretty high, especially when you're on the road, and are 3-point favorites, which I always like to see. If you're doing start and sits through the week, watch the Vegas line, see who's got the advantage, who the game flow is, and like Aaron said, the Browns, see what Vegas thinks about how the Browns could run the ball. If you see that total, which is really high right now, I think it's at 54. If it starts coming down, you get a little bit of a tip as to how effective Vegas thinks Nick Chubb's going to be in that one. But I think it's going to be a fun week 1, Aaron. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Oh, God. Well, one thought is always start whoever's playing against the Bengals. I mean, you mentioned Dalvin Cook, but I'd take anybody. Jason's a Bengals fan. I don't know if he wants anyone to know that, but it's true. The poor guy, that for the 30 years I've known him, have the Bengals won a playoff game in the 30 years I've known you, Jason?
They were close. They were close once.
They were close.
Kimo von Oelhoffen took out Carson Palmer, and that's all she wrote a bunch of years ago. But yeah, it's tough. And the Bengals, but just in all seriousness, Bengals are one of those teams like the Cardinals that are going to play a little up tempo. So even if they stink, they're going to run a lot of plays. And that's always great for whoever's playing against them, because even if you're in a game flow situation where you're out in front, a guy like Dalvin Cook is still going to get his, unless the game gets out of hand and they go to they clear the bench there. Anything else?
But Jason, isn't it funny how someone like Kirk Cousins is totally ignored and forgotten? No one wants Kirk Cousins. Here he is surrounded by great receivers, one of the best running backs in football.
Yep.
Threw for 35 touchdowns last year. No one wants him. Yeah, I think he finished 10th among fantasy quarterbacks last year. he's a guy. He's a perfect example of a guy you get later in the draft, and with the substitution feature, you might be sticking him in all year.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw that in. It always amazes me how no one wants Kirk Cousins.
No, and he did. You're right. He's dependable. Hey, there's value in drafting quarterbacks. This is why I always like Tom Brady, who's going to play 16 games. Drew Brees was another one before he retired. I like having somebody on the team that I know is going to start and not, isn't as prone to exposing himself to injury. Like I loved Cam Newton. Guys that Michael Vick, always loved guys. Steve Young, who but they expose themselves to injury, would miss a game here or there because they're getting banged up, man. They're taking some major heat. So guys like that can go out and play 16, like Cousins and Brady, and you can probably put Matt Stafford in that category, though earlier in his career you couldn't. But
you'll see so many people taking Joe Burrow over Kirk Cousins.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot more risk there.
I think I ranked Burrow. No, I ranked Burrow ahead of Cousins because, I'm looking at upside and doing and taking that. And like I say, with your rules, you can take them both. And if Joseph gets hurt, you take it out. It's going to be a great week 1, Aaron. Go sign up for YouRulz. We'll have information and we'll do more, we'll have more shows. We'll have more articles out there for you. But more importantly, we have a great platform to play some games. And if you're still doing drafts, mock drafts on YouRulz is awesome. You could just jump in there and do just a U versus CPU mock draft. And let me pick from the 6th spot. You finally find out where you're drafting. You want to do a quick mock draft on who's going to be available in the 6th round from this spot. You can do it with YouRulz. You can do it on your own. You don't have to wait for Johnny Slobotnik to get in there and then take 5 minutes with each pick. And nothing worse than mock drafts than having to sit there and wait while some dope's trying to figure out what kicker to take. Come on, man. Just click the button. The mock
and there's a color-coded draft board.
Right
there, a quick glance at the other rosters and what their needs are. It's terrific. The draft features on YouRulz are great.
Yeah.
And Jason was saying, we're going to be here all year. We're going to be writing. We're going to be doing these podcasts. We're going to help you with your waiver wire pickups, et cetera, et cetera. Very excited. Looking forward to making that first substitution.
Yeah.
Maybe as early as Thursday night. So.
Yeah, that's right. So check back in with us. You stay on the site, register today, sign up for some leagues with YouRulz. It's a lot of fun, but a lot of fun to be able to do it. Try something different, do something new, do something same, and get it all done at YouRulz.com. Get over there today. For Aaron Bland, I'm Jason Walker. Play the game your way with YouRulz. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.